Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining our call today. Today we'll have a lot of very fascinating news and updates, and I'll just pass the mic to Maxim.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much. I will start sharing my screen. And I'd like to do a presentation today about the advancements that we achieved at LNPBP Association in building RGB, and also cover few first user-facing projects that allow usual people to start touching the RGB world. I would like to begin with the introduction of what is RGB from not from a technical perspective. We had plenty of talks and calls where I've been giving a technical overview and in-depth analysis of RGB. Here I would like to pay a more high-level attention to why we are doing that, why this is important, and what emphasize we would like to put into the technology launch, because it defines the ecosystem that we are trying to build, or at least trying to support developers building this ecosystem. So RGB is a non-blockchain technology. That's, I think, really cool, because finally we are getting to the stage when we have something better than blockchain, which is a client-side validation. It is grounded in blockchain, like Lightning Network is grounded in blockchain world, but in fact it is an off-chain scalability and privacy technology. So RGB is a non-blockchain smart contracts. They're much more private, even more than blockchain-based zero-knowledge solutions, because with a blockchain-based zero-knowledge you still have a ledger where there could be different forms of analysis happening. With RGB, you don't have anything about the smart contracts and the states and tokens anywhere in any sort of the ledger. We have much more scalability because RGB works over peer-to-peer non-consensus networks like Lightning Network, but not limiting actually, in fact, to the Lightning Network. Which again emphasize why client-side validation world is much different from blockchain by not needing a consensus protocols. It is much more safe programmatically due to layerization and separation of concerns. I will be briefly explaining what is that and how it works. It cares much more about ownership instead of governance, because I do believe, and not only me and many people in the Bitcoin ecosystem do believe that emphasis which was put by blockchain projects on governance, they were constantly saying that Bitcoin lacks governance, is a wrong way of putting things. What is more important is the actual ownership, who is the owner of some asset of a smart contract state, and that should be the center, and the owner decides. That's the whole of the governance. Not somebody for the owner should decide what he has to do with his own assets. It should be only the owner. So this is pretty much a pure cypherpunk stuff created by coders and scientists. No token, no, really seriously, no token in RGB. You can launch infrastructure level projects without tokens, and the RGB is just the first one. There will be much more coming from our research and development teams in the LNPBP Association, like storage for Storm for storage, Prometheus for computing, Bifrost and DEX-related protocols for decentralized exchange. They will all be without a token. That's fantastic, actually, I think. The thing around RGB is 100% non-profit, open source, but still anarcho-capitalistic, with a strong emphasis and focus on ownership, as I already said. And what we are trying to do is to build an ecosystem for growing and building business on top of that. It is developed and maintained by LNPBP Association, which I already mentioned. It's a Swiss non-profit, which we plan to grow into something like Linux Foundation, hopefully, and Internet Engineering Task Force in the future, but for specific vertical of Bitcoin and Lightning and Layer 3 related projects. And it's our John Galt solution to the world problems, we hope at least. The most frequent question, how RGB compared to Ethereum? And by Ethereum here, I don't specifically mean Ethereum as a system. I'm talking about all blockchain, generation 2, generation 3, generation 4, generation whatever, smart contract technologies, blockchain smart contracts, which happened after Bitcoin. And the comparison it's literally the comparison between blockchain-based smart contracting system versus client-side validation smart contracting, which is RGB as of today. So Ethereum and block-based smart contracts, I do believe is a mess. First of all, there are needless tokens. So why do we need Ether as a token to pay for gas prices? But well, this you can avoid completely if you wouldn't use blockchain for execution of the code in a single-threaded mode for all the world. There is no clear ownership rights at any level of the system inside the Ethereum. Governance is worse than with the government. All layers mixed together, bugs, which leads to bugs and hacks, unscalability and low privacy, constant happening hard forks. Contract can contain backdoors and has to be audited. Even after that, it may have a backdoors about which even creators are unaware of, like the developer of EVM and Solidity language, Gavin. When he created a Polkadot ICO contract, it got hacked and killed by a stranger because the creator of the language itself haven't an idea that there is a backdoor in the code that he has written. I do believe, and we are trying to build RGB to be quite the opposite. So no token, Bitcoin level safety guarantees of ownership, because ownership is governed by Bitcoin itself and Bitcoin script, proven by more than 10 years. Nothing is added at that level at all. It is scalable over layer 2 and layer 3 with a Lightning network, decentralized exchange, smart contracts, which may run on top of RGB and Lightning network. So there are much more layers which are possible to build on top of RGB itself. Extreme confidentiality, absolutely extreme. Sometimes we are being criticized for being that extreme confidential, but I have to mention that the owner has the responsibility to disclose and reveal any information he'd like to. So this extreme confidentiality protects the owner from unauthoritative access to his data and information. But owner, of course, can open and disclose that information if he decides to do that. But yes, otherwise the confidentiality, from what we know, it's the most confidential system in decentralized systems up to date. And there are very clear ownership rights and mutability due because of the client-side validation. No miners being involved in any decision maker or proving of the transaction, state transition, anything related to RGB. And Bitcoin transaction has no visible way of, there is no visible way of detecting whether a particular Bitcoin transaction is linked to RGB or not. Issuers lose control at the moment they create a contract, and they can't embed the backdoors. Owners are always in the control and know the terms and conditions upfront before they receive any, before they start participating in the smart contract, in fact, by receiving some to the state of the smart contracts. And no backdoors are possible because client-side validation means client-side validation. So you as a client validate, and if you don't accept, you are not accepting that stuff. And once you accepted that, nobody can change this data and call something into your contract which you actually own, like it can be done in blockchain style smart contracts. There is much more in-depth technical analysis of the stuff. So if you are interested, you can watch the slides after this talk. I wouldn't be spending more time on that. I will be briefly cover the summary that there are very important criteria like who are the parties of the agreement. And in Ethereum, they are very loosely defined, while in RGB, we are trying to differentiate the roles and distinguish them between issuers and owners of the state or tokens, but the smart contract is not always about the tokens. And in the most of cases, I do believe with RGB we will have non-token cases of smart contracts. The agreement, the contract itself as an agreement in Ethereum-style smart contracts is blockchain stored, and who knows who keeps the API files as well. That's very interesting part of the Ethereum world. While in RGB, this is only client-side stored. Current state, there we have blockchain with all its problems. Here we don't have a blockchain, so we don't have all those problems. The code is actually composed in RGB of 2 layers: Bitcoin script for ownership right, and state and schema and simplicity script for state changes, while in Ethereum it's all mixed into a single JavaScript stylish level with EVM leading to all these problems and hacks. And finally, the mutability. The Ethereum style contracts are pseudo-immutable. They are mutable in promise, but de facto they are censored by miners, Vitalik decisions, smart contract creators without any clear structure. So you can't predict who will decide something tomorrow regarding the smart contract you own. And literally, if you buy some ERC token today, put that on hardware wallet into a safe place, and come back in 5 years, there is a high chance that you wouldn't find your asset there because the smart contract was hacked, because the creator of the smart contract has changed the smart contract, upgraded it, or Vitalik decided to stop, like with the DAO, or miners did something. So it's absolute mess. While RGB, like with Bitcoin, the ownership is controlled there, and if you keep your private keys and don't lose them in safe place with the hardware wallets, you can't lose your Bitcoins and you can't lose your assets. Of course, if there will be a quantum cryptography, which is actually another myth, there might be exemptions from this rule, but generally under the conditions of elliptic curve cryptography safety, this is how it should work. And final slide on this criticism is another paradigm which is being pushed in the crypto world today, is about that multi-blockchain world is the future and some sort of internet of blockchains, which I do believe is really, really bad thing. Well, why? Because if we are talking about those values that I mentioned, to be censorship resistant, to be unconfiscatable, to be private and confidential, to be anti-fragile instead of just decentralizing everything, because we don't need to decentralize everything. Ownership, for instance, is a very centralized way. The fact that you own something is the most centralized thing in the world, and we need to keep that centralization. We don't need the whole world to decentralizedly decide for what you own. So that's why we're talking that, calling that anti-fragility. So anyway, only a single blockchain is able to serve censorship resistance needs. It's a long discussion. It's completely theoretical. It can be proved with the math. Literally, there could be only a single proof of work safe system. And you can't get censorship resistance without proof of work, because you instantly get a finite and well-defined list of validators, and you can contact that validators and organize censorship, where with the proof of work you have an open participation. So there is only a single blockchain that can serve censorship needs, and this is the most powerful in terms of hash power proof of work blockchain, which is Bitcoin. And because of the emergence, there is very low priority that it will be ever changed in this regard. And other blockchains are not needed, since they are either non-confidential or unscalable and insecure. This is a fundamental trade-off. Again, it can be proven with a computer science. I wouldn't be going deeper into that, but this is actually stuff which is not an opinion. It's the fact. And we do believe that all data must be kept by data owners with a client-side validation. They may pay for delegating that storage, like with the Storm protocols on the layers on top of Lightning Network, but not in the communistic way like with blockchains, where everybody pays for everybody, and it's not clear that all the nodes has to store data for everybody. And it's not clear who is paying those nodes for storing those data. Actually, nobody. And that's what I called communistic way. So this is a very improper thing of organizing data storage and persistence. What we actually need instead of multi-blockchain world is isolated contracts like with RGB, interoperable with each other via layer 2 and 3, like Lightning Network, or layers on top of RGB, not within the RGB, but on top of RGB, because it's also very security important. And that's what we need instead of connected internet of blockchains. And the final thesis is that true proof of stake is a stake you can lose for breaking RGB contract in a multi-peer Lightning Network channel, and not public and censorable blockchain shit token related stuff, which happens today. So that is not a proof of blockchain. That is a censored system, unscalable, insecure, created for governance. So that's why we are doing RGB. And the RGB mission is to bring much more privacy, even more than blockchain-based zero knowledge, much more scalability, to be much more safe programmatically, and to care much more of ownership instead of governance. So that's an introduction into RGB. Now I would like to pay some attention to how we plan to launch this project, which we completed the development last year. Right now, at the beginning of this year, we started launching a set of products and tools. And we plan to complete that by the beginning of summer with completing a Lightning Network RGB related part. It's already operational, but it's not 100% complete yet. We plan to complete it by summer. But after that, how we plan to drive the RGB adoption? Well, we believe that it will be a scalability issue that will force different companies to use RGB. The main problem on that route is actually that the governments like blockchains very much. It's the true that they like blockchains. They don't like Bitcoin. That's why they said that it is blockchain, which is a true innovation, not Bitcoin, which is false state. Why they like blockchains? Because they can control validators and do chain analysis. And even more with the zero knowledge based blockchains, because if you will look into new projects promising a zero knowledge, the only thing they do is actually they develop a special private keys which will be controlled by courts or by tax authorities, and the rest of the world wouldn't see the transaction. So it will be still transparent to the government, but untransparent to the rest of the world, which is worse than if it is transparent to everybody. So they really like blockchains and will be keeping pushing into that direction of building digital concentration camps of the new age. But the problem is not only about that. The problem is that enterprise follows the government because it is scared of its enforcement power. So enterprise and corporations are always comply cooperate. Even in such extreme historical conditions like with the Nazi Germany, we see that enterprise and corporations unfortunately always cooperate with the government. So how we are going to achieve the adoption of RGB under these conditions? Well, the real blessing for us that's the fact that blockchains do not scale. They are not scaling, and without RGB, it is impossible to build a decentralized system. And RGB is built in a way that you can't remove privacy from the system, or you can have a private keys which will unlock all the data in all world, like with the zero knowledge blockchains. So our chance is, before the governments will understand what the new shift of paradigm with the client-side validation means normal companies will have a window of opportunities to start using RGB. Why? Because they need a digital scalability, and they can't achieve that with a pure blockchain. So there are a number of steps we are planning to build the adoption on, and we do believe that one of the most important things are user and developer-facing tools. They are really critical. We are seeing that from many examples with appearing internet, with internet appearance. Before Mosaic, before browsers, it was only small group of people who were interested and able to use them. The same was about Bitcoin. Satoshi had to develop Bitcoin Qt client together with Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency. And he even developed a poker game embedded in that client to drive the adoption. And the same repeated multiple times throughout the history. So unfortunately, the fact it's not enough to do a cool technology. It's very important to do something user-faced. And that's why we have the cooperation around LNPBP association, and that's why it is an association. It is established by a number of companies who are planning to launch their own products as a part of this ecosystem. So we are not only developing the products. Association will help those who will try to build on top of these products, and we believe that quite soon we will see a good line of stuff that will be RGB enabled. The important point here is tools may be for profit or commercial, especially when there is a need to provide support for those who are using them. And of course, you can't do that in a scalable way without being paid. It's normal. And we are anarcho-capitalists, so we do believe that this business should have a business models behind that. However, the proper paradigm for building that part, we do believe that is open source and free to use if it is self-supported, while if you need a professional support, that's the option where the payments are coming from. Developers of the original protocol, we as the developers of the original protocol are able to deliver the initial tool set for the market to start playing with RGB. And today I will give a few words about the company, which is my company. I've been involved in RGB development quite a lot last year. And this company has developed in parallel a set of tools that helps users to start using the RGB, matching all those criteria. And they all open source, and you can take them as a sample to build your own tools and business. All of this is built with a free and open LNPBP association tools. And first of all, I will cover what are these tools. The tools that I will be presenting are built on LNPBP association tools, and these tools are just an integration on top of the libraries coming from an LNPBP association and the user interface layer. And the main libraries behind that are client-side validation and LNPBP core libraries. Sorry?
I'm sorry for interrupting. Your screen is black right now. We cannot see anything.
And now?
Still black. So you are sharing the screen, but it's just point black.
Once again.
There was a paradoxical infinite regression of screens. Okay, now it's back.
Is it?
No, not right now.
You're just sharing the presentation.
Yeah, now, yeah.
I think
now,
when you go full screen, it's black.
Okay. Now I think you see it.
No, yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So continue. I think this slide is not perfectly formulated. So the idea here is that there is a set of tools coming from LNPBP association. And actually, it allows developers at the low level to develop everything that they need. And these tools are libraries related to client-side validation. There are libraries specific to RGB, which are called RGB Core Library. And the node, which is built of those libraries, running RGB protocol. The same for Lightning Network Network protocol. We have a Lightning Network protocol implementation by the association, and there is a node called LNP node that runs in the Lightning Network, which we are working on the completion of. And there is a descriptor wallet library covering Bitcoin protocol. And with those libraries, we now, as a commercial company, have built tools on top of them for end users and consumers. And these products are just an integration layer and user interface. There is no business logic at all, because all business logic are inside those libraries. And everybody are welcome to use these libraries in a different way and build their own tools and commercial solutions on that, taking what we are having as a and also, these tools are the way how you can start using RGB tomorrow, and it doesn't require from you to be committing to anything. So what are these tools? First of all, it's a Bitcoin Pro, which is MAT licensed tool for professional asset issuers. It will be helping doing such things as managing secondary issuance, proof of burns, renomination. So if you just need to do some playground token, it will be even simpler to do that with RGB node if you know command line, or you can develop some simple website doing that. But if you are planning to do the issuance of tokens professional, you will probably need a Bitcoin Pro, which is GTK Plus based for all desktop platforms, written in pure Rust. It's quite complex. Well, it has a user interface, but still it's quite complex because it implies professional use and understanding of how Bitcoin protocol works. The second is MyCitadel wallet, which I was presenting 2 weeks ago. And today and tomorrow we are planning a release of the new version of MyCitadel with a lot of bug fixes. And one of the most important things that will come with this new version is the ability to manage multiple assets on the same UTXOs. And doing all of that, still being able to pay and transfer those assets without losing the rest of them. There are also many other updates, like more contract details, address details. You actually have a full-strength blockchain explorer dedicated to your specific transaction and addresses and outputs from inside the application. So I will invite all of you to join our test program. Olga will share the link in the chat on that. And at the end of the call, if we will have a time, I will do a brief demo, because last time I hadn't time to complete the transaction in the system. So I will try to do it now and demonstrate how it can be used. But there will be much more to MyCitadel other than just a mobile application. There will be also hardware devices and private cloud setups, which I will be covering a bit later. But what is more important than additional to MyCitadel, we have released just yesterday what we called a Citadel SDK. It is an MAT licensed SDK for all wallet developers, which will help them to get RGB and Lightning Network running, spending just about a week on integration. The Citadel SDK is the actual engine which is inside MyCitadel. And MyCitadel mobile application, as you see, is a user interface layer on top of that engine. I will give a bit more introduction to Citadel SDK because it's the stuff which we would like to recommend as initial way of getting both Lightning Network and RGB into existing wallets and new wallets. So I will spend several slides explaining Citadel SDK, and after that there will be one more thing that I would like to uncover today. And during this year, later, we will be revealing more and more stuff related to Lightning Network and decentralized exchange related things. So by the end of the year, I think we will have a complete tool set for working with RGB in both on-chain and off-chain world. So the Citadel SDK, it is a single point of integration for all cool stuff. RGB, Lightning Network, Taproot, Miniscript, Multisig, and wallet descriptors, DLCs, and decentralized exchange in the future. It's not there right now, but it is designed with them in mind, and we will be developing it and keeping supporting it, extending it. So if you embed that into your wallet, you actually get all of that for free, in fact. It has very simple API, hiding complexity of RGB and Lightning Network node management. Those of you who try to play with RGB node, you know that there is a very big complexity in integrating the RGB and Bitcoin part. RGB creates a partially signed Bitcoin transaction for you, but you need to sign that transaction. And because RGB modifies the keys inside the outputs with a pay-to-contract tweaks, you have to do a lot of changes in the wallet, in Bitcoin wallet part, which happen to be quite complex. So just an integration of RGB and Bitcoin wallet functionality, when you have everything in place, from my experience, takes more than 500 lines of code. It's like you're calling RGB, then you're calling something from Bitcoin wallet, then you're calling something from Electrum server, then you're doing signatures, then you're doing other stuff, then you're storing some data. So, and that's complexity is hidden behind the simple API. So you need to call just one method to get RGB payment done with a Citadel SDK, while if you're using direct access to RGB and Bitcoin wallet, it will take you like 10th of calls just to construct a single payment. We already provide and will provide as a part of Citadel SDK native libraries with a high-level object-oriented API. We already have Apple for Apple platforms in Swift. Android and Java is work in progress, and also quite soon we will have Node.js library. Later this year, there will be also a Python libraries. Hopefully, for instance, somebody will try to stick it into Electrum wallet. It is MIT licensed with a tech support and integration services by Pandora Core company, and it can be used in personal or private, in private or enterprise setups when you have a shared wallets. For instance, you have several devices and you would like to see the same operation history, or you have a company with a set of employees, and because Citadel can run in the cloud environment, in the private cloud environment, of course not like Google Cloud, and you are able to access the same wallet infrastructure from different and multiple devices. And this setup of the personal setup or enterprise setup can be self-hosted with the MyCitadel box appliance, which we will be starting distributing the second half of this year in partnership with a Nodal, or a private cloud-hosted MyCitadel node running in the cloud, again with a support of Nodal private cloud infrastructure. And for those of wallet developers who will be using the Citadel SDK, we will provide the revenue sharing programs. So if people would like to set up their private cloud environment, not bothering with their own self-managed server, they will be paying with the Lightning payments, and there will be revenue sharing across our company and the wallet who actually provides that service to the users using Citadel SDK. So there is some technical details about the wallet architecture. I wouldn't go into details here. Again, it's for those who are interested to dig deeper after the talk. You see here that it's all very modular. I will be saying a few words about the architecture design we are trying to follow across all of the products done by LNPBP Association and Pandora Company. Generally, you see here red color for RGB node, which is embedded into Citadel. Yellow color for LNP Lightning node, which is embedded into Citadel and which is connected to the Lightning network. There is storage, which is specific to RGB, like RGB stash, those client validated data, and asset cache for fast information access. You can wipe asset cache and reconstruct it, but you shouldn't lose RGB stash. This all is managed by RGB node, and if you will use RGB node directly, you will have all of that. The same for LNP. There is part responsible for channel management with the channel state storage, peer connectivity, where you connect other Lightning nodes without establishing channel necessarily, or with establishing channel. There are different options. And of course, LNP runtime managing all of that and managing communications with RGB. On top of that layer, there is a Citadel runtime, which is the core part of the SDK. It manages both RGB and LNP node and adds a lot on top of them in terms of integration facilities. So first of all, it provides a read-only wallet data storage. It doesn't work or keeps any private key. It doesn't touch any private keys ever, which is very important. But it stores descriptors of the wallets which are used, which is clearly not part of RGB or LNP. It's something like Bitcoin level functionality, and it uses structures from descriptor wallet for doing that. It manages invoices. We have developed at LNPBP Association universal invoice format covering both Bitcoin network payment, descriptor-based payment, miniscript-based payment, PSBT-based payments, Lightning network payments, RGB payments with a rich functionality, like you can do recurrent payments, you can link, you can stick to a particular exchange rate with external currencies and so on and so forth. And we had a separate presentation on that invoicing. And when I was presenting MyCitadel, I was showing that capabilities. These capabilities are all inside the Citadel runtime. And the implementation of the invoicing is made in LNPBP invoicing library. So again, Citadel doesn't do it by itself. It only integrates libraries from LNPBP. And if you'd like to do it yourself, and have a complete control, not a black box of the stuff that organizes everything for you, but have a complete control, you can just stick in and use LNP-BP association libraries to do the same thing yourself, but you will need to write an integration. History of operations, rich history, providing which invoice has been paid with which operation, identity data specific to merchants, and so on and so forth, and historical PSBT data, which can be exported to other wallets or other reasons. It also manages blockchain cache coming from Electrum server and talks to Electrum server. Today, it's only Electrum server which provides blockchain-specific information. However, in the future, I plan to support also direct interface to Bitcoin Core and BP node, which is another node being developed by LNPBP Association for more efficient, fast, robust, and small size and compact indexing of Bitcoin blockchain. On top of this runtime, we have a Citadel RPC client and language-specific libraries and bindings. Important thing that Citadel RPC client talks to runtime via interface, via RPC interface. So the whole runtime together with our RGB and LNP node can be hosted in the cloud or on your personal server at home or embedded into mobile. I will be showcasing that in a moment. And this is interfaced through C library called libcitadel, on top of which we have a language-specific libraries for Swift called Citadel Kit, for Java, it will be called JCitadel, for JavaScript, Citadel S, and for Python, PyCitadel. And then on top of that, we have a mobile apps, desktop apps, and the actual node with a command line interface. Here are two other important things that, first of all, the keys, private keys and seed storage is managed at the app level, not at the bottom level. This prevents us from touching keys everywhere, and it will be your app which will be in control of keeping and managing private keys. LNPBP Association provides tools for helping that, and we have a platform-specific tools, like tools for keeping on Apple devices or Android devices for using a device provided secure enclave by Apple and Google. for storing those keys, and you can use those libraries which are instantly wipe all the information from the memory and keep track of each byte where the private key data or seed data were stored. These are very small libraries, like several hundred lines of code, easy to audit. So again, you're welcome to use them, or you can use your own infrastructure if you already have developed that. Another important part of the story is that there is also another product called Keyring, which is a signature server. And if you run a serious custodial business, you probably will have your own signature server, or use Keyring, where you can set up a policies, how many transactions on which amount coming from which private keys and public keys can be signed during the date. And you can set up multi-sign environments with a multiple signature servers, and the Citadel will run through all those servers, collecting the signatures into PSBT until it is signed. So this is very flexible design. And as a test set, everything of that, aside from the external signature servers and external Citadel nodes, and of course Electrum server with Bitcoin Core, can be embedded into mobile application. And MyCitadel that I was demonstrating and will be probably demonstrating today is actually a mobile application running all of that stack. And it does that really fast because everything here is being developed with Rust. And aside from user interface part, of course, everything is developed in Rust with a very fast things. Right now in Citadel, we have a blocking API. In fact, we plan to move for non-blocking API into the next release. So user interface will be separated from the calls. So today, each time you call from the user interface any function, you wait and log the user interface until its completion. And you probably already noticed that it's still really fast. When you will remove that blocking API, you will see even further speed boost. Another option is that inside mobile application, you can keep everything aside from RGB and LNP nodes, which can run on some external server by wallet developer or a personal server. What it will give? Well, it will give an ability to receive payments when the mobile application is offline. And it's important for Lightning Network and RGB. And you can have even more complex setups with the universal invoices that when you create invoice, you provide your mobile RGB and LN address. And if your mobile is offline, you can specify alternative address, which will be an address of your home server, and next alternative address, which will be an address of a wallet development company who provides, for instance, service with the wallet together for those who don't have a personal server, and so on and so forth. So this is very modular. And finally, you can even more reduce just to have a Citadel client inside your mobile application and running the whole Citadel runtime in the cloud or on personal server. I already covered Keyring. It's actually a service to manage multi-sig policies, including enterprise and personal or family setups, 100% PSBT compatible, Taproot and USIG ready, RGB compatible. It is also a part of Citadel Suite, and it's still under development. We expected it to be released for preview by the end of the year. We have seen this architecture, and I would like to say a few words explaining this, the design behind those architectures. What we are building in LNPBP Association, the approach we are creating in LNPBP Association to such architecture, we call it Internet 2. And with this approach, there are several rules we're trying to follow. First of all, there is everywhere an end-to-end encryption. Well, aside from the internal components communicating to each other, of course. And it should be as much decentralized as possible, and it must be censorship resistant. So we are trying to use only those parts of Internet technology stack and Lightning Network, with which you can avoid any censorship from, for instance, you need to have an alternative to IP addresses with a Tor, and onion addresses, an alternative to DNS, an alternative to PKI infrastructure of certificates, because all of that parts are centralized and used for censorship today. So that's first part of the Internet 2 initiative. And the second part is the approach of designing applications to support all of that. And everything with this design is made modular and compact with microservices. And you can distribute your software in arbitrary ways across mobile devices and servers, including cloud setups, Docker setups, and so on. These components are talking to each other over binary encrypted Lightning Network stack protocols on top of zero message queue. No old, slow, and insecure JSON RPCs, no plain text data. Everything of that is avoided. And most of the business logic is written on Rust, which gives us very high performance and deterministic security, and highly robust in runtime. And that Rust and business logic is wrapped in language-specific class libraries with a good objective-oriented abstraction. So those who are interested in this part of LNPBP association research and development, you're welcome to see the GitHub working group on that questions. It's github.com internet2org URL. Probably you will ask me now, when Citadel? Citadel SDK as a technology preview available today on GitHub MyCitadel organization. It includes main Citadel runtime, implementing 100% of business logic for RGB, miniscript, and multisigs. A Lightning Network taproot is expected to be completed by June. Of course, taproot will work with a testnet, and the whole setup with Citadel is dedicated to Bitcoin testnet. So taproot works with a signet, which is a form of testnet. However, of course, if you'd like to put it into mainnet, there is everything technically. It is possible technically, but it's not advised because we haven't tested that in the production, and you can lose everything. In fact, we are not 100% sure that it's an early stage product, so we are not recommending that. Also, today we already have C and Swift class libraries called libcitadel and Citadel Kit as a separate repositories. As I said, Node.js, Java, and Python are expected by June. Node.js and Java by June, and Python by the end of summer. Wallet developer technical support. We are unable to provide it today because we have to complete the development and we don't have sufficient man scalability internally. But starting from midsummer, upon the completion of Lightning Network components and Android part of the SDK, we are planning to launch a technical support for those who will need it. Otherwise, you're free today to look into the Citadel SDK and MyCitadel application, which actually uses that SDK, and figure out yourself how it can be used. It's not hard. The whole MyCitadel application in terms of user interface and Citadel integration is several thousand lines of code, which is really simple. You will find it probably significantly simpler than you expected. MyCitadel node for self-hosting or enterprise setups is also ready, and it's version 01 beta. You can get it in the same GitHub organization. It's called MyCitadel node. MyCitadel box hardware appliance running MyCitadel node in cooperation with Nodal, expected by the end of summer, but there might be delays, of course, because it's a hardware business. And MyCitadel Cloud, again in cooperation with Nodal, we plan to deliver this autumn, such that other wallets will be able to provide users with the ability to use cloud setup, handling their payments when the mobile phones are offline. And there is one more thing. But before doing this one more thing, we are reaching 1 hour limit, so the video recording will break. And I propose to have a small question and answer section and then move to the new recording and that one more thing.
Great. Sure.
Hey, Maxim, very exciting, incredibly bold, and I think probably all of our wheels are spinning. Just an incredible number of possibilities, and I wonder with that if you could share a few use cases, consumer user stories that maybe you're particularly excited about that really highlight what's possible.
Thank you very much. It's really important to know that the stuff we are doing is interesting, and there is a desire to start using it by other developers. So, well, what excites me is much beyond what is expected from today's smart contract. So it would not be probably so excited for the rest of companies and people, because today everybody is excited about DeFi and about NFT, and of course NFT is possible on RGB, and even DeFi, well, modified DeFi, modified in the same way like we modified Ethereum smart contract, so decompose it till the ground and recomposed up again in a correct form. But DeFi is possible. By DeFi, probably I mean not the hype around the DeFi, but the concept of financial world, of proper digital financial world, where you have bonds, loans, different forms of derivatives, and not, well, you will always have a speculation, but you can build a proper financial world. But that's technically non-trivial. We still years of 1-2 years of development ahead to get that working and running. But what really excites me with RGB, and the reason why I started investing a lot of my time into this project, is the fact that you can build much more complex systems. And we are looking forward for such things as a Storm, which actually token-less way of storing data in decentralized way with the Lightning Network and Bitcoin in a trustless way, in a confidential way. You don't need storage for that or Filecoin or anything like that. You can do it over Bitcoin and in a scalable way. So this is, but there is still a research that is required to be completed, and there is a lot of zero knowledge stuff around it. It will also require state management, and it will stick together with RGB. Even more interesting is the next protocol, which we call Prometheus, which is about high load scaling computing in decentralized and trustless setups. You can do very interesting things around organization governance, where you have a company or an entity, non-profit entity, community, where you can structure the rules and relations in the form of smart contract and enforce that rules. And this will be operating not only as a blockchain-based smart contract, but this will operate as a multi-peer Lightning Network channel enhanced with RGB state. So we are also researching in that direction. Very interesting direction of identity management and reputational systems, quite tightly related to what I just described, and another part of the same equation. There is ability to bring more programmability to Bitcoin itself, and I will be also covering that part a bit later. So a lot of exciting developments, and we of course need much more manpower and research power to complete all of that. Fortunately, we have a lot of talented people thinking and working on this direction, so it's not only me. I think there is at least 5 people who are not even developers, but they are professional, either game theorists or thinkers like Giacomo and others, who are investing a lot of their time into designing and crafting those protocols, crafting the system behind that, like it was Peter Todd and Giacomo who crafted the client-side validation and single-use seals, which later being developed into what we have today. Of course, there is a long way from the concept and conceptual protocol into the actually working protocol, and even more to get to the code and working products. But as we see, it's being it is being a long time, 1.5 years, but it's not that long for the world to get from the concept protocol through the complete redesign of technology, implementation of all software and protocol stack in code, and the actual product. So just in the mid of 2019, we had completely different, much simpler RGB and very early prototype, which was completely rewritten. And through that time, we did everything. So I do believe that in another 1.5 years from now, we will have much, much more exciting things.
Hi, this is Ali here from Hexa Wallet.
Hi.
So first of all, hi. So I think first I won't take a lot of your time, but one thing I definitely wanted to say was, coming from the Ethereum world of DeFi smart contracts, I absolutely love the architecture here, where the smart contract code is not distributed over the blockchain. I think it's a very elegant solution. I think, and I'll just stop there. And I'm really looking forward to this materializing and being usable, because I can see the potential in terms of financial assets that can be issued on this platform. So that's really great. So well done there. The second thing is actually a question. So from a wallet architecture perspective, it seems to me everything is based around the MyCitadel node, and MyCitadel node is the one which is actually integrating with all the Bitcoin related infrastructure, including your Bitcoin node, your Lightning node, and everything. And MyCitadel node is going to expose RPC calls, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So if there is so at the moment there is there's a Swift client library available. But if the MyCitadel node is exposing RPC endpoints, right? If RPC calls can be made to MyCitadel node, I can use any other language as well, and any other platform, and make those calls myself, isn't it?
Yes. Okay. I will have two parts of the answer. So directly answering to a question, theoretically you can. In practice, it will take a lot of your time, and I will explain why. Because RPC API works over zero message queue, which is not a problem because you have zero message queue libraries in all of the languages. But what is the problem is the encoding of the data. And the data are encoded with a strict encoding, which was a special format designed for client validation together with BetaTaught. And there are non-libraries for decoding strict encoded Bitcoin-specific and RGB-specific data structures other than Rust. So that is the bottleneck. And we really plan to address this bottleneck, but we don't have the capacity to do it today. So if there are any external developers willing to work on that, I think we can even organize a budget for doing language-specific libraries for strict encoded stuff. But without that, you will be literally spending quite a lot of time decoding the data and encoding the data that you will get from the RPC. And it's not only specific to Citadel node, Citadel, correct way of saying Citadel SDK, because it can run as a node or it can be embedded inside the application. It's not only the case of Citadel SDK, it's the same case with LNP node and RGB node. Everything that we are doing is using this API, which first of all is very efficient, fast, robust, and protected. But as a trade-off, again, you have to follow this encoding, which is quite custom encoding and UI coding for client-side validated stuff. And we need class libraries. The second part of my answer, that while you can do that with a Citadel SDK, let me explain the trade-off between two options. You have two options. First of all, you can get RGB node, you can get LNP node, and integrate with that. And there is nothing wrong with that, especially if you have a wallet and you would like to do a lot of custom stuff and you would like to really deeply integrate RGB into the wallet. That would be probably a proper way. The trade-off of doing that is that you have to understand how RGB works more deeply, and you will need to spend much more time of your developers on the integration. And an alternative is the Citadel node, the Citadel SDK. And you will spend less time. You will do one API call, and the transfer happens. But the trade-off is that you will have two wallets in your wallet. So if you already have Bitcoin wallet or Lightning wallet, and will add Citadel SDK, you will get two wallets next to each other. It's not a big deal because with RGB, you still have to keep a completely separate business logic, and you can't mix keys used in RGB context with other keys used in Bitcoin or Lightning context. Otherwise, you risk of losing the assets if the output wasn't spent without proper RGB commitment. So this is not that bad. However, from user experience perspective, from wallet developer user interface perspective, it's really hard to connect two distinct wallets. And Citadel comes as is, meaning that you don't have ability to do some custom coin selection. You don't have ability to do some fancy stuff which you may be interested in doing, and to differentiate in that from other wallets. So the way we thought, and we thought about that a lot of time, is that at the end of the day, we will have both low-level integration with RGB and LNP nodes and SDKs available for wallet developers, and Citadel high-level SDK provided. So the first low level will be provided by LNPBP Association, and more high level by Pandora company. But to start with, we need something simple. Otherwise, it will be really hard for wallets to start playing, to start experimenting, if you need to allocate 2 months of your developers just to get RGB integrated. So we start with this simple Citadel SDK. We already have RGB stuff, so you can also try to integrate that, but it's not 100% completed in terms of integration for the wallets. While Citadel will be completed first, and then we will continue going deeper and providing more low-level APIs for doing more custom things.
Okay, that makes sense actually. So yeah, it makes sense to wait for those platform-specific client libraries to be available, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's why we are doing SDK, because it's easier to do a language-specific SDK, wrapping the client, than to talk through the zero message queue with this custom encoding right from the language.
Right. Okay. And just one final one. On your RGB org GitHub, there is a RGB SDK and a React Native sample implementation. So what does that use? What does that use?
Well, it's actually the way how you can use from React Native existing RGB SDK. The problem with that approach, so we started with that. We found that we worked with the wallet developers from one of the main sponsors of LNPBP Association, and we found that it takes really long time for them to understand and integrate with the rest of Bitcoin functionality. So I understood that we have to do our own wallet to be able to come through all this route of RGB integration. And the actual result of coming through all this route is this Citadel SDK, which solves the problem that we faced with a direct RGB integration.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
If I can jump in here, I just want to say hi, Dr. Maxim and Olga. My name is Sandra. I see that we actually attended the Hacker Congress in 2019 together.
Oh, cool.
I don't remember if we actually met, but I see now that I need to see the recording of your presentation, because you were talking about transhumanism, which is fantastic.
Yes.
And so I'm one of the two founders of Liberstad in Norway, private city, like founded on anarcho-capitalism philosophy. And I'm super excited about.
I heard your talk there. Yeah.
Very nice. I'm super excited about what we were talking about. I was introduced to RGB by Dan, one of my sort of colleagues working on something called Block Core, which is a .NET-based implementation of Bitcoin and other blockchains. And like in Liberstad, I think a lot of the things you've shown here could be super excited for us, and it is exactly what we need because as a lot of the points that you presented here, like Liberstad can't be dependent on a centralized Ethereum blockchain, right? Like if the whole society runs on Ethereum, what happens when someone does something bad there? So it's like a lot of things here is very interesting. I'm doing a lot of research in like decentralized identities, verifiable claims, and all those things. And that's and be able to run this on Bitcoin is even more interesting. And the point about user adoption is one of the things I'm doing a lot with these days. I'm building my own wallet, trying to make it like super user friendly, because I need to adopt. Because John Doe is going to come to Liberstad, and he's going to have to pay with crypto, so it has to be understandable for those people. But we also need to be able to be very secure for those who are not a little more technical. My endpoint is that me and Dan will look into maybe potentially adding .NET support for the SDK, because that will be very interesting for us.
Okay, we will take the note that there is interest in .NET support.
Yep. And
actually, I don't have a lot of development experience with .NET. Am I right that having C, so we have a C library as a starting point of supporting in any language. So basically adding support to some language is making an interface to C library. Is it hard to, so if it's not hard to do to use C library from C#, which I assume may be hard because of C.
It's fairly easy. We're already using like RocksDB and other external dependencies for sure.
So yeah, I think we will add that to the list of the required languages together with Python somewhere at that stage of pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, we will contribute as much as we can.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you very much. You're welcome.
And thank you again for fantastic technology.
Yeah. And thank you for feedback. So let's keep in touch. And good luck with everything that you're doing. You're doing a great job.